There's been so much emotions going on today, and I know they're all looking down, proud of me, and being able to one day I being able to play in the NFL, and now I'm getting drafted by the Vikings. Is just this truly just means the world, and thank you to the Will family, Kwesi, Coach O'Connell. I just I really have no words to describe how I'm feeling right now, just because I'm so happy, and I just can't wait to get to work. The next chapter of my life starts now.
Hey, everybody. And he's Brian. She's off camera somewhere, but she's Judith Iscariot. He's Reg. And I'm Biggest Dicketh. And this ain't the life of Brian, but it is Vikings reporting through and Ted. Gentlemen, how are you?
What? Oh, don't worry about him, sir. He's murr. He's Max up. Are they gone? Oh, yeah. No.
Just when you thought you were saved. It's Monty Python's Life of Brian. He wasn't the Messiah. He was a very naughty boy.
Oh, we are back for another round of whatever the hell is going to happen over the next time we're recording here. But no, happy to be back with you guys. As always, I love the hell out of this, and I'm happy that you've made me a permanent part of the show. I appreciate it. And yeah, we're going to continue having as much fun as legally allowed, I guess.
Is that legal?
Drew, I have a question for you.
Understand?
Yes, sir.
Now write out 100 times.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Hail Caesar, sir.
Hail Caesar.
Should I flee Brian or Boaz?
I shall release Brian.
What about Big Nose? If he says Big Nose again, I'm going to thump him. Welcome, everybody. Life of Brian. Please like and subscribe as we get going. We need subscriptions. That's how we eat. That's how we buy our alcohol. But I am doing fantastic. Ted, how are you doing? We're doing really good tonight.
I'm doing pretty good, man. I want to let you know, we didn't talk about it because it came out after the alternate uniform came out after our show last week. But I bought the Winter Warrior. I bought a Winter Warrior jersey. That's how good I'm doing. Guess which player I bought, Drew Bunting?
J.J. McCarthy.
I did. As a matter of fact, I did.
Nice.
Bought a J.J. McCarthy jersey. I did.
Get him up there, boys. We got to toast Ted Glover.
And guess what else I came across on the internet? I'm going to match you shirt for shirt, Drew Bunting.
Oh, you are, huh?
Yeah. I found a Unabomber went to Michigan shirt, and as soon as I get it, I'm hanging it right behind my shoulder, pal. You think I'm kidding?
I'm looking forward to it. By the way, in the opening, you said you were biggest dickus, whatever?
Biggest Dickus.
What's funny about Biggest Dickus?
I think we need to have a tournament to decide that, because I'd like to throw my in the ring.
Oh! Okay. Wow! Okay, yeah. Man, hey!
I'm talking personality, pal. This is a family-friendly show.
Oh, okay. Great movie. We were talking before the show started, Chris and I, that nobody has been able to duplicate any Monty Python stuff. It can't be done. That's a piece of history. Every once in a while, you get things like Led Zeppelin, things that just never can be touched.
And there have been comedy troops, Second City TV, and it was like the 70s was like the golden age for comedy troop shows. Second City.
It's when Saturday Night Live got started.
Saturday Night Live got started. Monty Python, and I don't know about you guys, but Monty Python's Flying Circus on PBS, late Sunday night when my parents thought I was in bed. That's the first time I saw a naked lady on TV.
Always look on the bright side of life.
I'm not even lying. I'm being totally honest.
PBS would save the movies for like when they were doing the annual pledge drives or whatever. So you'd get 10 minutes of the movie and then like 20 minutes of people like selling tote bags and coffee mugs and crap like that. And you'd be like, can we just get back to the movie?
This cassette is our thank you to any parent, grandparent, or grown-up friend of a Barney fan who decides to use their time now to make a pledge of $60 to 13.
First time he saw a naked woman. Well, you're still one step ahead of Eli Manning. He did all right with that. I think he's still trying to attempt to do that at this point.
Yeah, it's Life of Brian, great movie. And we chose it because it's just, Monty Python is silly, completely silly. Their skits, the TV show, the movie is just completely silly. If you don't take them seriously, you just completely enjoy them. Much like the NFL offseason this time of year with the silly, stupid rumors.
Rumors of things going astray. And there shall be a great confusion as to where things really are.
Just a couple of housekeeping duties I got to do before we get on with the shoe. If you would head on over to Purple Pain Forums, that's purplepainforums.com. Great community of Minnesota Vikings fans. Just speaking of social media and how terrible and awful and gross it is, if you don't like any of that, head on over to Purple Pain Forums. You'll get all the great interaction with other like-minded Vikings fans without the terrible takes of the Mike Florio type garbage that you tend to see on social media and the dumb opinions and posts on some of the Vikings Facebook pages. If you're on that part of social media, purplepainforums.com. Great original opinion pieces and articles by folks like Dan Chat. Just head on over there, purplepainforums.com. You can find our show there as well. If you like great articles and pieces about the Vikings and analysis, you'll want to go to the Daily Norseman. That's the SB Nation Viking site, dailynorseman.com. Headed up by our lovely and talented co-host, one Mr. Christopher Gates.
I think lovely might be overselling it a little bit.
From the man who brought fantasy to life.
Right there. I used to write there. He let me write there for a long time until he just got sick of my crap and kicked me out. No, he didn't do that. I just was kind of burned out from writing, but still a great place to go for all Vikings news and opinions, dailynorseman.com.
I got a question for you guys.
I got an answer for you.
When you see these posts on Facebook and stuff that say experts at ESPN say Vikings will only win 3 games.
You're an idiot.
What are you, retarded?
It's ridiculous that people they shouldn't be allowed to even make these things.
You and I, like before Chris came on, when we started this show, we said we are not going to jump into the rat race of chasing after, well, this would be a great trade for the Vikings. If they were trade 3 first-round, if they could get 3 first-round picks for Justin, all that crap you see in the offseason. We said we weren't going to do that. We weren't going to chase those opinions. I think by and large, we haven't done that. I think we did a couple times early, when we first started doing a show in the off season, we were trying to find stuff to do, but we don't. We generally don't. We stick to what is reported when it actually happens. I'm glad we do that because I think chasing stuff because somebody says this would be a great idea, and it just becomes this echo chamber and a self-looking ice cream cone. I just hate that, man. I just hate it. So yeah, but I mean, obviously it works because somebody will throw it out there, and the next thing you know, just about every Vikings blog and somebody with an opinion is commenting on it, and you're just like, just stop.
Frustrating. Who are we talking about tonight?
We got a little bit of Minnesota Vikings news. We're going to talk about a couple position battles that we are interested in, and then we are moving on with our draft pick profile series. This week we're going to talk about Walter Auslander Rouse, 6th round pick out of Stanford, as we continue on. So we got just a few more guys. And then our draft pick profile series ends for the year because we're rolling right into training camp next month. The train never stops rolling in the NFL, even though it's the offseason. Before we get to the news, though, Mr. Drew Bunting, what time is it?
I'm cooler than you are. So why don't you fix your little problems and light this candle?
He's right. Ignore those stupid rumors and light this candle.
He surely is. Why don't you look on the bright side of life and light this candle?
This is the 135th episode of Vikings Report with Drew, Ted, and Chris. 135 is a special number to me because I was a crusty old KC 135 crew chief. And from this crew chief to you, yes, resume the countdown.
All right, I'm cooler than you are. Why don't you fix your little problems and light this candle?
He's right. Let's light this candle.
He surely is. Light the candle.
Yes. Resume the countdown.
Oh, that was our buddy Dave Stefano from First and SKOL.
What's up, Dave?
Our former co-host or host of That Idiot and This Idiot. We're Good Morning Gallahorn. Dave, thanks for stepping in and doing the cameo. Hope you're doing well, brother.
And congratulations for Dave. That was his 32nd podcast this week.
Glad he can fit us into that tight schedule of his.
Hardest working dude in podcasting, I swear to God.
He is, man. You can't swing a dead cat without finding a Stefano podcast somewhere on the internet,
No.
can you?
I like that Two Old Bloggers show on Sunday with him and Darren. They have a lot of great info on that
they
show.
do.
It's a good show.
Is he not like on Cameo or something at this point to like get him for hire? I mean, he should be. I mean, damn.
Send him some whiskey or something. He likes that.
One of those lima bean IPAs or whatever that stuff is that he's into.
Well, look, I tried to pay for one of his cameos, but there was atmospheric interference and it wouldn't work. So
damn solar flares again.
The solar flares are up. Yeah, Dave enjoys that Brussels sprout IPA. He loves that stuff.
Ugh.
All right, so a little bit of Vikings news. Again, it's kind of the dead period. I don't think there's any more official team activities until training camp next month. Chris, am I right on that?
As we record this, I think they're wrapping up OTAs, and then there's really nothing. Drew and I were talking. We're about 6 weeks from rookies reporting to training camp, so there's going to be very little activity over the next 6 weeks, I'm guessing. So
all the Minnesota Vikings have to do between now and reporting to training camp is not get caught with a hooker or go 200 miles an hour trying to get home to your dog or something else stupid.
This weekend safety brief. Don't add to the population. Don't subtract from the population. Don't end up in the hospital, newspaper, or jail. If you end up in jail, establish dominance quickly. Have a good weekend.
But actual football news, Kevin O'Connell said, we talked about the Dalton Risner re-signing, and we were all kind of surprised about his contract, his one-year deal. Not a whole lot of money, comparatively speaking, to Blake Brandel. And it kind of seemed like he was being signed as a backup. But Kevin O'Connell said he will be competing with both Blake Brandel and Ed Ingram for one of the guard positions, which I kind of thought was refreshing, Drew, because I think last week you said Risner is a more natural player on the right side.
I think he is. I do. But I also think Ingram's going to be a hell of a player this year on the right side. So I don't know. It's just good to have the competition, Ted. It's good to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Ingram's rookie year wasn't great. I mean, we all know he had his ups and downs and whatnot. He was really, really inconsistent. I thought he was a whole lot better last year than he was as a rookie. He had a couple of games I think he missed with injuries and whatnot, but I thought he was a significantly better player last year than he was in his first season. And it's kind of surprising to see that Risner, we got to get a handle on how the hell to pronounce that guy's name. But
let's just call him Dalton, and every time we call him Dalton, we'll put a picture of
Roadhouse.
Roadhouse, yes. And not the new Roadhouse with Jake Gyllenhaal, but the original Dalton with Patrick Swayze. Yeah, we'll just call him Dalton, and we'll put Patrick Swayze's picture up there every time.
Keep the change. Roadhouse.
Leave it alone. Leave it alone. Leave it alone.
Whatever.
I'm just kind of surprised, with the improvement that Ingram showed last year, that his spot might kind of be up for grabs. I mean, we don't know. That's going to be the battle to watch during camp, I would imagine.
I'm kind of surprised that KOC said that because Ingram is their guy. That was one of the guys in Kwesi Adofo-Mensah's much maligned first draft that actually has worked out. He was pretty bad at his first year, but he has steadily improved since that first year, and he's become a league average dude. And you've got Blake Brandel, who I think he's played much better as a tackle than as a guard when he's been in. Yeah, Risner's better on the right side than he is on the left, but I thought Risner played okay on the left side last year. I'm okay with the competition, don't get me wrong, but I just think Risner would be a guy that would be a better fit on the left side over Brandel, as opposed to putting Risner in at right guard, keeping Brandel at left guard, or putting Risner in at right guard and then moving Ingram to left guard, Drew. I don't know.
First off, the Ingram thing, Dave Stefano, he and I have had plenty of discussions about interior offensive linemen needing 2 to 3 seasons to round into form, which this is right where he needs to be.
Yeah.
I don't understand any of the problems people have had with Ingram his first season. Most guys don't play their first season. He was thrown to the fire. He's right on cue, scheduling wise, talent wise, of where he needs to be right there. 2 to 3 years. And Dave will agree with me. That's what it takes for a lot of these guys. So he's rounding into form right where he should be. So I don't think he's ever been behind schedule. I don't think so.
I would think this would be Ingram's kind of breakout year. If he is going to make a substantial leap in talent, I mean, we're going to know if Ingram is going to be an above average guy or if he's going to stay kind of in the Garrett Bradbury range of talent. It's going to happen this year.
I would expect him to take a step up to level A.
I would too. I mean, maybe not all pro guy, but kind of like in the Dave Dixon range, kind of above average, just sort of a road grader sort of dude.
That was fantastic, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Kind of sort of between Dave Dixon and Steve Hutchinson, another Michigan guy who I love. Everybody gets on me. By the way, I want to just get this out of the way. Everybody gets on me on Twitter for saying, "Oh, how can you like Michigan guys?" Like, once a guy is on the Vikings, I don't care what school they went to. Just period. Dot. I don't care.
That's the way you're supposed to look at it.
Thank you.
Once they become Vikings, I mean, I know people that hate J.J. McCarthy that say they're Viking fans. They still want J.J. McCarthy to fail because they don't like him, even though they're supposed to be Viking fans. Now, those people...
Then they're not actually Vikings fans. These people who feel it's more important for them to be right than it is for the team to be successful.
Idiot.
Which is dumb.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of going back to Ed Ingram, if he's going to make that leap up to above league average, kind of into the Dave Dixon range, it's going to be this year. I get the competition, and I think maybe that's why KOC said it, is to get Ingram to light that fire under him, to get him to get motivated. If for some reason he wasn't, I would think he would be. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I still think Ingram is the heavy favorite to stay at right guard, and the battle really is between Reisner and Brandel. That's just my opinion, though.
And whoever doesn't get it, you'll have a good backup, right, Chris?
Yeah, because like we said, Brandel can back up at both tackle spots and probably both guard spots, and Reisner can back up everything on the interior of the line. So whoever loses that battle, like you said, you got quality depth at a couple spots on the line. So there's no real losing for the Vikings here in this situation.
If you have a crappy offensive line and defensive line, you're not going to win a championship. Both of you guys know that. And football, no matter how it's changed over the years, 3 yards and a cloud of dust, run offense, all the way up till today. The line of scrimmage has never changed. You got to win it. You got to win the line of scrimmage. So I always get happy when the Vikings are dressing either the offensive or defensive line, because in my eyes, that's where it starts.
Yeah, I agree. I'm all for the competition. I would just still think it's kind of more between Brandel and Reisner, and we'll see what happens when we get to training camp.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I don't think Ingram's spot is super up for grabs or anything like that. I think it's more like you said, to kind of get him motivated going into the season.
Speaking of training camp and training camp battles, I think it's fair to say that most of the starting jobs are fairly settled, pretty much on both sides of the ball. But there are still going to be some intriguing roster or second and third spot battles that are going to be interesting to watch. Besides quarterback, I think even as much as we want J.J. McCarthy to succeed and start hopefully sooner rather than later, I think that's going to be Sam Darnold's job. That was mentioned earlier by Kevin Connell. It's going to be Sam Darnold's job when he enters training camp and to start the season. We're all going to be watching it, but besides quarterback, we're going to leave that position group out. Is there a position group you are going to be paying particular attention to when training camp starts for like a kind of a down roster spot, Chris? And who and what is that going to be?
We talked a lot about it with Matt Freese last week. I want to see what they're doing with the corners. He said guys like Byron Murphy, probably a lock, Shaq Griffin, probably a lock. But behind those guys, I mean, you got a lot of dudes. You got your Caleb Evans, you got Kyrie Jackson, you got Andrew Booth Jr. might be on his last chance to finally make an impact. And, in the National Football League, with the way the offenses are now, you can't be weak at corner anymore. You got to have quality guys that you can rotate in and out of there. So aside from the guys that are probably locks and probably aren't going to play much in the preseason anyway, I want to see what they're going to try to do with these young corners and what Brian Flores has for, Evans and Jackson and Booth and some of the younger crowd at the position to see how they've developed over the course from through last season into the season this year.
Okay. Yeah, that's one I'm going to definitely be watching. Drew, how about you?
I am intrigued and excited to figure out how this tight end position is going to go.
Yeah.
I want to see who's going to emerge. And you kind of figure it's Oliver right now, but not by much. Are they just going to sub guys in all day, or is there going to be one specific guy before Hawkinson comes back? And I'm intrigued at that position to see how they're going to play it, how they're going to play it out.
Those are real good ones. And Chris, this is sort of related to yours. You talked about the corners, and I think this sort of depends on how many corners they keep, but I'm looking at the safety position. I think Harrison Smith, Cam Bynum, and Josh Metellus are absolute roster locks. And what happens to Lewis Seen, that first-round pick from 2022? When you look at all the corners that are fighting for roster spots, how many corners do they keep? Do they keep 5 or 6? If they keep 5, Cine probably has a roster spot. If they keep 6, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Does Lewis Cine, can he come in and play himself onto the roster? I mean, I don't know. That's the one player I guess I'm probably watching more than anything else. Wide receiver 3 is also very intriguing to me.
Yes.
Definitely.
JJ and Jordan Addison obviously are roster locks.
So we're not trading Jefferson, right?
Well, I don't know. I mean, he's unhappy. He's unhappy and wants to be traded.
He might still hold out. You never know.
But Brandon Powell stepped up and played really well when Jordan Jefferson was hurt last year. Jalen Naylor has all the potential in the world. But, Drew, you talked about this when we did his draft profile or when you did the wide receiver big board a few years ago, that he has this big play potential, but the injury bug, it hit him at Michigan State, and it has followed him into the NFL. He missed, 2 days, a couple weeks ago or 3 days because of the flu, for God's sakes. Who gets the flu in May and June? I mean, come on. Really?
You got to stay on the field.
I know. They brought Trent Sherfield in, who has really not really lit it up in his NFL career, but he's been around 6 or 7 years. And in 2022, in the Josh McDaniel offense, which is kind of a very up-tempo offense, very similar to the Vikings, he had 30 catches, 417 yards, 2 touchdowns in a reserve wide receiver role. So you could kind of see him making a play for wide receiver 3, especially if the N'Keal Harry experiment at tight end works out and he can get some serious playing time there. So that's going to be a very interesting battle to watch. So that's probably the one I'm probably watching more than anything else. That's just me, though.
Yeah, like you said, most of the starting spots are already figured out, so we got to keep an eye on the guys further down the depth chart. And it's good because the first couple of years of the Kevin O'Connell era, the starters basically haven't played in the preseason games anyway. So it's going to give us plenty of opportunities to see the young guys, see the dudes further down on the depth chart, and to see what they can potentially bring to the table for this team.
I want to ask you guys a question. We're going to be watching quarterback. We've all agreed that Sam Darnold is going to be the starter. How much playing time do you think J.J. McCarthy should get in the preseason?
I would break it down by, Darnold, since he's new right along with J.J. Darnold get a series or 2, and then pretty much all McCarthy until the 3rd preseason game. I guess you can play Hall a little bit, but still the majority should go to McCarthy, I think, because he's your future. He needs some reps in there. I don't think you need to put Mullins in there at all. I wouldn't waste any. You already know what he can do.
Okay.
Hall is still a question because he flashed some good plays and then he looked atrocious some other plays. JJ's the future. Darnold, I would say maybe give him a series or 2 in the 1st and 2nd game and then sit him for the 3rd game. But I think the majority has to be JJ McCarthy, doesn't it?
I kind of agree with that. I mean, even if McCarthy is kind of the 3rd quarterback going into the season and, holding the clipboard while Sam Darnold starts, and presumably Nick Mullins backs him up, because I don't know if Jaren Hall has shown enough to this point to be the backup or anything like that. But yeah, I think you want to give McCarthy as many snaps as possible. The only thing that worries me about giving J.J. McCarthy that much time is the fact that he's going to be out there behind 2nd and 3rd string offensive linemen. I really don't want dude to get killed in his first ever preseason. You want to try to balance out how many snaps you give him with, when you reach that point of diminishing returns with keeping him out there too long. So we want him to stay healthy. We want him to succeed, but, we don't want anything bad to happen either. I know you can't play scared in the NFL, but, that's Kevin O'Connell's job to kind of balance that out a little bit.
One, I completely agree on Nick Mullins. And it's not that I don't like Nick Mullins, but he's been in with the Vikings the entire KOC era, correct?
Yeah, he was Cousins' backup the last couple years. And
yeah, he knows this offense cold. You know what you have in Nick Mullins. He doesn't need to go out and prove anything. I do agree that I'd play Sam Darnold maybe a quarter the first game and just kind of evaluate it. And then the 2nd game, maybe a series. And then I would turn it over to McCarthy and Jaren Hall. I think Jaren Hall is probably destined for the practice squad. I don't see him being on the final roster. I just don't.
There's one other thing that potentially figures into the calculus for the number 3 quarterback. The NFL changed the rule because last year your number 3 quarterback had to be on the 53-man roster, but They changed things this year so that if you have a quarterback on the practice squad, you can elevate him on game day an unlimited number of times. So you don't have to keep 3 quarterbacks on the 53 anymore. You can have a Jaren Hall on the practice squad and keep elevating him every week or whatever. But if you're going to do that, you're going to make McCarthy the number 2 quarterback, which means you're going to lose Nick Mullins at some point here, unless you're going to put both Mullins and Hall on the practice squad or something crazy like that. So I don't know if that's going to figure into things as far as figuring out who makes the team and who doesn't, but it's one more thing for them to consider.
I don't think they're doing that. I think they're going to keep all three on the roster. You're obviously not going to put J.J. McCarthy on waivers and try and get him on the practice squad. I don't think you're going to cut Nick Mullins.
Unless you're Atlanta, unless you're the Falcons, they might try that.
I mean, I don't think you're going to cut Nick Mullins because he's your only experienced backup you have on the roster. I think you go Darnold, Mullins, McCarthy on your roster, and then you put Hall on the practice squad. All right, that's all we got for Vikings news for tonight. Now we will move into our draft pick profile. We're talking left tackle Walter Rouse, 6th rounder, 177 overall. I think at the beginning I said he was from Stanford. He played in Stanford, at Stanford 2019 to 2022. Then he transferred to Oklahoma, which is where he was drafted out of. So officially he's from Oklahoma, but he played most of his career at Stanford. He's 6'6", 313 pounds of twisted steel and romping, stomping dynamite. Drew, tell me about Walter Rouse.
First off, I'm going to throw a quick trivia question at you since we're not doing Toonces trivia tonight. We have had 12 players selected from Oklahoma University. Who was the last player selected by the Vikings from Oklahoma?
Ooh.
Phil Lodeholt?
No. Good guess, though.
Was Rufus McDaniel after Phil Lodeholt?
He is not the right answer.
Can you give us a year?
2022? Come on, guys.
Oh, Brian Asamoah.
Yes, that is correct.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
We're all functional morons.
Let it go and accept the truth that we is dumb. Dumb as hell.
He's not related to the great Curtis Rouse, who played for the Vikings for 4 or 5 years. Remember Curtis Rouse?
He was a big dude, too.
When Curtis Rouse came into the NFL, he was the first guy at 350. And I believe it was 1982. He was the first player to hit 350. He was the biggest player in the NFL at that time, I do believe. He may not be related to him, Ted, but he is related to the guy he's named after, his grandfather, Walter Rouse, who, if you remember right, in 1963, when he played basketball for Loyola of Chicago, his grandfather hit the winning shot in overtime against the University of Cincinnati in 1963. Walter Rouse, his grandpa.
Out to Rouse, 9, 8. Harkness has got it. Here he goes. He jumps. He passes out to Hunter. Hunter shoots. He off the rim. Rouse gets it, scores. It's over. It's over. We won. We won. We won. We won the ball game.
Against, would that be the Oscar Robinson-led University of Cincinnati Bearcats?
I believe it was.
The Fighting Jackets of Cincinnati.
This guy's got a lot of experience. 53 games in college, Chris. He played 53 games. He started 52 of them, all at left tackle, 2,500 snaps in 4 seasons. And then he went to Oklahoma, started all 13 games. All but one of his 3,400 career snaps in college were left tackle, all but one snap. So he is a pure left tackle, but I'm going to throw a wrench into that because I think as I watch the tape, I think this guy would thrive at guard. And I'm not sure what their plan is for Rouse, but a lot of his tape, he gets beat with a lot of quick moves on the outside. I don't want to say it's written in the books like that, but I don't know if he's got the foot quickness to play outside and deal with these edge rushers from the outside. I mean, he was really good at Oklahoma. Had 1 penalty in 12 games and didn't give up a sack in 656 pass blocking snaps, which is damn good.
That's pretty impressive.
The things that is detrimental to his game wouldn't hurt him if you pushed him into guard. His strong points that he has, Ted and Chris, is his leverage and his power. That way he doesn't have to worry about getting outside to cover those defensive ends with the quick moves to the outside. I think quickness laterally is his problem. And I think you could minimize that by putting him inside. The Vikings, I'm not sure if that's the idea they want, but this might be the guy that might be the Swiss Army knife along the offensive line that you can play inside or at tackle. I think he can play everything except for center. Now, their idea just may be purely putting him at tackle, but then it gets the argument of, well, Drew, he's 6'6". 6'6" guys can't play guard, can't play inside. Well, that's the way it used to be. It's not so much anymore. It isn't.
Reisner 6'5".
Quentin Nelson's 6'5". It used to be the outside guys are your tall, athletic guys. And then the inside guys were 6 foot, 6'1". They were shorter to deal with the leverage of the guys like Tony Siragusa and John Randall the big beast inside, Jerry Ball. I mean, that's a whole leverage game. You got to get underneath that guy. The tall guys weren't working out inside. Well, that's evolving. Defensive tackles are getting quicker. Every one of these guys are 6'6". Tevin Smith, Andres Pete, Quentin Nelson, well, he's actually 6'5". Trey Smith, 6'6". Robert Hunt, the great Robert Hunt, who plays now for the Panthers, who the Dolphins got, is 6'6". Alex Kappa, the Bengals, 6'6". Ezra Cleveland is 6'6". And the list of guys I just read from you, that's not some willy-nilly guard list. That's from the top 30 ranked guards in football. Almost a third of them are 6'6". So that tall guy can't play guard thing is out the door now. It's not that way anymore in the NFL.
Chris, I have a question for you. How tall is Blake Brandel?
Let me.
No, can't look. Can't look.
Oh, 6'4".
6'7".
He is not.
Look it up. I just looked it up. 6'7".
There we
You
go.
just told me I couldn't look it up yet.
You
jerk.
couldn't, but I could, so I could ask the question. I'm the host, man. The rules are different for me. Reisner's 6'5", so yeah. I mean, you might be onto something, Drew.
There's a tape back in 2021 when he was at Stanford of playing against the great Kayvon Thibodeau. Thibodeau didn't do crap all day. Rouse ran him into the ground all day. And he was playing left tackle for Stanford back then. He was younger, and Thibodeau did nothing. He had no tackles. He had no sacks. He had a bloody nose, and he cried at the end of the game. So I'm not saying he can't play tackle. Some guys who look at Ted, Chris, and go, man, if he was on the inside, the leverage that guy creates in his power, he's got power, leg strength, all that stuff.
Well, Chris, when you look at the Vikings tackles on the roster, when you've got Ryan O'Neal, you've got Christian Darrisaw, who the Vikings are probably going to open contract negotiations with it to do a long-term extension with, and then Dan Quessenberry, who, besides being an ace relief pitcher for the Kansas City Royals back in the 80s, is a really good sub who can play both left and right tackle, fairly decent, as a sub. I don't see a guy in Rouse that can come in and play tackle right away. And when you're talking 6th-round guys, you're talking kind of crapshoots anyways, and or project guys. And this sort of sounds like Drew might be onto something here. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
No, I agree with that. I mean, and we've talked about the Vikings, in the Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah era, mostly taking guys from big-time schools that have played in big-time games and whatnot. I believe this is the second consecutive NFL draft that Oklahoma got both of their starting offensive tackles drafted. They're doing something right at Oklahoma as far as coaching these offensive linemen. And, like Drew said, if you're at the college level, there are things you can kind of get away with, like maybe not being as athletic, maybe your footwork isn't quite where it should be or whatever. But when it comes to a guy like this, I think he's going to probably end up being better off on the inside at some point. But with the way the roster looks right now, because like you said, you got O'Neal, you got Darrisaw. We've already talked about Blake Brandel could possibly back up at tackle spots. He's done it before. But they don't really have that guy that is labeled, hey, this is our swing tackle. I mean, Quessenberry kind of fills that role, but, if somebody gets hurt, he has to step in as a starter. And then you need to have somebody else that can back up that spot as well. So I don't know if he's going to make much of an impact early on, but he seems like the kind of player that, whatever they ask him to do, he's going to bust it in order to get it done. I'd like to see him make the team in some capacity. Like you said, 6th-round picks are kind of a crapshoot, but with the offensive line behind the starters at tackle, I think he's going to have an opportunity.
So, final 2024 roster prediction, Chris. Practice squad?
I think I'm going to have to go practice squad. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see him get an opportunity, but it's probably just going to be too crowded. And, he's going to wind up on the practice squad.
Drew?
Practice squad.
And I'll make it unanimous, practice squad. So that's it for Walter Rouse. Next week, we will profile kicker from, I believe, the University of Georgia. No, Roll Tide, baby. My bad. Roll Tide.
Roll damn Tide.
I'm looking forward to breaking down the Will Reichard tape.
Will Reichard.
Will Reichard he is a sniper, baby.
Yeah, he is. No trivia tonight because Ruby is stuck in a meeting with her real job, and she has been for like 4 hours.
It's not going to be a good night for Drewster, let me tell you.
I'm sorry to hear that, Drew. So this will pretty much wrap it up for episode 135, the KC 135 Stratotanker episode, the airplane I used to be a boom operator on. Anyways, folks, like Drew said at the beginning of the show, thanks for watching. Thanks for commenting. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for ringing the bell, all that stuff. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your enemies. Hey, clicks are still clicks, aren't they, boys? That's right, they are. As for me, I'll try to do better the next time. Chris, say goodnight. Drew, take us home.
Yet another episode in the books. We're almost through the draft class. We're 6 weeks from training camp. Can't possibly get here fast enough. And yeah, until then, we're just going to keep talking about football and getting you ready for what's going to be a way more interesting season than I think a lot of the really smart football people think it's going to be for our beloved Minnesota Vikings.
Here we go, episode 135. Very excited about this offseason. It's sure we may be in a lull, but we're never in a lull here at Vikings Report, are we?
That's what she said.
Great talking with you guys. We will see you next week. Say goodnight, Chris.
Good night, Chris.
Say goodnight, Ted.
Good night, Ted. Bawabbas.
Release Brian!